Hey, welcome to episode 253 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast, called Important Play. When I was young, I had challenges with my coordination and my speech, and I had really wonderful therapists. I was lucky, and at the same time, I often got so frustrated about what I couldn't do that I would forget how to play. My guest today is all about teaching kids to play as they work on really important skills that are essential to the development. Teaching them to play instead of drawing on frustration or drawing on I can't do it or what have you. Anyway, she has a lot more to say on the subject, a lot more eloquently than I do. Before I bring her on, I'll be sure to tell you more about her. But first, this.
Today's guest, Kristin Wittmayer.
Hey, welcome back to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. It's the first time I've heard that new intro music. It makes me want to dance. Chris Taylor, you were behind the scenes and you do amazing work, man. Thank you. So anyway, let me tell you more about Kristin. Kristin is an occupational therapist who works alongside another OT, physical therapist, and speech therapist at MoveU. The team has the same goal in mind: making social connections, problem solving, building confidence, skill development, and joyful. Let's try this again. The team has the same goal in mind: making social connections, increasing problem solving, confidence, skill development, and making joyfulness available to children through multisensory play. Kristin firmly believes that if you don't make therapy fun, you run the risk of kids not wanting to participate in it, and as such, increased difficulty in facilitating change and lasting impact. She talks about therapy as an artform and MoveU as the canvas where therapists and clients get to create their masterpieces. Please help me welcome Kristin to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Yay!
Hi, Jason. Thanks for inviting me on. And I really enjoyed your new intro. I didn't see your old intro, but I really liked the intro that you shared.
Cool. It's great music, huh?
Yeah, I was kind of jamming along to it too.
Awesome. Yeah, as I said, that's all the Chris Taylor who works behind the scenes.
It's great. It's great to have people on your team that can do the things that really aren't maybe your forte, and things to make your wheels still go round.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Yes.
Thank goodness for that. and that working as a team might come up later, but first I want to talk about if I had known you when you were 7 years old and asked, "Hey, Kristin, what do you think you want to be when you grow up?" What would you have said?
Oh my goodness. Gosh, such a long time ago. And I think there were a lot of things. I know back when I was 7, there was not a WNBA yet. There
Mm.
was an NBA, and I loved playing basketball. I spent hours dribbling the basketball, shooting baskets in the driveway, to the point of driving my family bonkers with all of the noise and continuous things. So I had always thought that maybe I would be the person that started the WNBA and that kind of thing. However, I maybe didn't start the WNBA, but I did start something pretty cool that still, is fun and challenging and builds a lot of skills for kids.
What is it like for you to see how the WNBA has really become a national presence?
Oh, it's incredible for sure. I mean, just the hard work, the effort, building on equality kind of things between men and women, and just seeing the level of competition and commitment that women can have in that kind of role is super empowering.
It's 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 phenomenal. When did the idea of becoming an occupational therapist enter your mind?
So I was actually a sophomore in high school. The career or the guidance counselors in high school, they would have you complete a career aptitude test, and occupational therapy was like the top thing that popped up based on my interests and things. And at the time, as a high schooler, I had no idea, like, what does occupational therapy even mean? So did a bit of research on that, and absolutely it was right up my alley. I had, for whatever reason, been drawn even as a middle schooler just to, instead of maybe taking that time to walk around outside the school over lunchtime, I always found myself volunteering in the special education room or just trying to be helpful and in that kind of capacity. And so truly, when it popped up, I was like, absolutely, I can do a lot of things with that. So I was pre-accepted to an occupational therapy program at University of Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota. And so I completed my full undergrad to grad school bit at University of Mary. The cool thing about that is I was also, we spoke of basketball. I've always just really loved basketball. And so I had a basketball scholarship to attend there as well. So kind of the main thing I loved to play, coupled with what I envisioned myself doing for the future.
So basketball was on your radar from a young age.
It sure was. I thought, for sure I would spend a lot of time doing that. Life just in general with, no matter which family you talk to, there's life events that sort of happen that are unexpected. And my vision of myself being this great college basketball player sort of changed right before I left for college when I had an accident injuring my ankle and foot. And so despite doing the rehab and attempting to play, it didn't work out. And so through that, different avenues of life did work out.
I mean, that's really interesting. You in your career, you're helping children all the time deal with experiences in bodies that maybe the parents didn't expect when they were born.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
then life happened for you, and you had an ankle injury, so you suddenly were dealing with a circumstance
That I needed to persist through and learn new ways of doing things, or, a new plan for what is life. What do I actually like to do outside of basketball? But even with the kids that we see, some parents enter and they're like, oh my goodness, I'd love for him to be a competitive athlete, or, we just need to work on this coordination or this strength. But it might not actually be the interest of the child to do those things. And so at MoveU, we really focus on getting to know the child. Just who are they? What do they love to do? And we start there. We see who is the child, and we join in that child's interest, and then expand that idea or expand that play to a just right challenge level, so we can enhance, whether it be motor function or social, emotional skill, coordination, behaviors, just problem solving, cognition. I mean, there's a lot of things that we really work on, but there's a lot that goes into any dream or desire that anybody has.
That's interesting. A lot of times when someone goes for therapy, kind of the idea is that the therapist is going to tell them what to do and what needs to be done. But you say you start with getting to know the kid and what are the interests. Why have you found that it's important to start that?
So one of the unique things about MoveU is that all therapists that provide service here are trained in a treatment approach called DIR floor time. That's a developmental individual difference and relationship-based model of treatment. And within that, it's just essential that we develop that relationship, that rapport, and then start where the child's interests are, to then help expand that into maybe more challenging things, or stretch ideas and stretch problem solving, but by doing that in a fun and playful way, using a multisensory approach, which means we're providing, like, through the equipment, through the movement experience, we're getting a ton of touch, where our vision is working for us. We're using our muscles and our joints. So we're changing head position, maybe moving fast, maybe slow, maybe in a line, maybe in circles, up, down. I mean, we're moving full body experience, but the cool thing is we get to do it together. And so my initial role when I meet anyone is I want to get to know them. I want to know what their interests are. And through joining them, I want to become the best toy in the room. So whatever experience or challenging thing we embark on, that we're in it together, and not, just child and therapist, staggering above, like supervising, kind of thing, that we're in it together and we're exploring emotions and capabilities and possibilities all together.
It sounds like this approach will be more rewarding for you as a therapist, as well as for your clients. Have you found that?
Absolutely. So we do tell parents sometimes that at times it's hard to tell in a session, like, who's having more fun. Is it the child, or is it us as the therapist?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, our first priority is that the child is having fun. and is having a joyful experience. But when that happens, just our therapist hearts are so happy and joyful as well. And so truly, like within a session, if we find that moment where we're sort of like, like oil and water, we're not meshing well, our goodness of fit maybe isn't there between child and therapist, those sessions seem to like drag out. Maybe it's like, this just isn't working, this isn't fun. But as a therapist trained in this technique, that's a signal to me that, okay, like take a step back, something's not right about this, whether it's not the right challenge, maybe I'm too tired and the child's energy is like really heightened or something, like maybe we're not a good fit in this moment. So we need to step back, sort of rejoin that connectedness and build together through there. So we can't, despite therapists always being like, oh, I want to for sure like improve how you can do this. Those therapist intentions sort of have to be put to the wayside a little bit. We still have that. We're being artfully vigilant, but truly we need to be attending to the child and what's their internal state, what are their interests, because then we don't have to drag them through in something like 5 more reps, 4 more reps, but instead it's like, wow, this is great, let's keep going, and there's just authentic fun and joy that's had.
When you invited me to MoveU a few weeks ago, it was very inspiring, and the word play kept coming up over and over again. Why is play so important to the work you do?
Yeah, so first of all, like play is fun, but also for children, that's the primary occupation of children. So an occupation is a meaningful activity, and children play. And frankly, adults should continue to play as well, because that's truly where we find like this innate drive to be creative, to pretend, to imagine, to plan out, like, what are we going to do, to wonder, like, I wonder if I can make it from this step all the way, to jump that far up onto the platform, or can I make it to the 3rd monkey bar as I'm trying to jump? But play really helps to not only build kind of our body map of like, okay, here's my body, here's the rest of the world, but it's really important for building confidence, for working on social relationships. So you think of, you take a child to a playground, they just run off and play, and before you know it, they're sort of playing with a few other kids, typically, and within that, there's role taking, or maybe we're role playing where, I'm the king, or I'm the queen and you're the dragon, or like whatever the scenario it is, you get an opportunity to play out like hero and villain and these different roles that are really essential for experiencing emotion and practicing to learn with, like, explore and experience emotion in a safe way of, oh, I'm so angry, I'm gonna knock down your house kind of thing. I get to feel that or pretend to be that, but then like recover from it. And so there really is a lot of social emotional goodness, let alone coordination, working together, like teamwork kind of things, communication. There's just so much that is really essential about play for children.
When I saw you give a presentation at I always get the name. I think it's a South Dakota Developmental Disabilities Conference.
Yes. Yep.
And you had this. You showed this quote that has stuck with me. And the quote is, "Feeling safe is much more important than thinking you are safe. We are body-first organisms, made to feel through our senses."
Yes.
eh, which, how do you connect that quote to the work you do every day?
Right. So if you take school, for example, school is a safe place, that physically safe place that kids might go. There's a lot of rules and people to help make sure you're physically safe there. But at school, if I'm struggling with reading, or I just like math doesn't make sense, or despite me giving 110% at writing within the lines or coloring within the lines, or doing things just perfect, it's just not enough. It's not working out for me. When kids experience that kind of like, gosh, I'm giving it all, but it's just not working. Maybe I keep getting out of my desk, but I'm really trying to sit within my desk all the time, but there's sort of like I'm trying so hard, but it's not working out. And so internally within our body, within our nervous system, we might start to develop like this sense of insecurity, or like, will I be able to do it today? Is the teacher going to like say, be quiet or sit down? Will I get my work done on time? Will I have to stay in from recess? And we start kind of like worrying about those things potentially. And so that, school, again, it's physically safe. However, internally thinking about all those things, I may not feel safe to go there. Feeling meaning I'm so worried, like, am I going to be able to do all the things? And maybe that starts to develop into some sort of anxiousness, or maybe I'm resistive to the transition going to school. Now, this can happen in any environment. I just use school as an example within that. But MoveU really is just the way that we designed the space. It was designed as a place of belonging, and a place of belonging is a place where a person can actually feel safe, where I feel supported, where my needs are met, where I'm still challenged, but yet in a safe capacity, where it's not too much, but it's not too little, kind of thing, where my emotions are supported, where I feel seen, and where I feel heard. And so when we designed the MoveU space, we didn't necessarily make a conventional like waiting room that you might think of at a doctor's office, but instead MoveU just in general is wide open, big windows. If you walk in the front door, you can see pretty much the entire space, besides a couple other rooms or spaces. But it's really meant to feel safe, because now that I feel safe and I can let my guard down, my nervous system can sort of simmer a little bit. That's where the best learning can occur.
Please say more about that state where you described it as the nervous system just simmering a little bit. Please say more about that.
Yeah. So take, if we're anxious, or maybe even children with a certain subtype of sensory processing challenge called over responsiveness. If I'm over responsive to noises, so I hear a noise and all of a sudden it's like, what was that? And I alert to it. And despite like it just being the air conditioning, and the air conditioner just came on again, and then later on it comes on again, but I keep having these big reactions, the nervous system's not habituating how it should. It's not getting used to that sensation. So it's still like, it's sort of like we have this cup of sensation and we're venturing on like one more drop's just gonna explode the cup. And so that's what I'm talking about with a sympathetic nervous system reaction. So it's a protective mechanism within our nervous system. Alligators, reptiles kind of have that. And so it's like an alligator sees something move and it just like snaps. It's going to protect itself with this like fight mechanism. And so within humans too, like we can sort of get in this kind of track of, I'm just like on the edge, I'm barely holding it together, and one more drop of something, whatever it be, explodes the cup. And now all of a sudden the smart part of my brain can't think. It went offline because my body is in survival mode. So you might see this like real quick shift in emotion, maybe aggressiveness, maybe destruction, maybe I just run away, or maybe I shut down too. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can happen, but within MoveU, because it's a place of belonging, we're able to kind of work with that system. So we sort of push the boundaries, but because we're in it together and we're doing something fun and joyful, the nervous system has a lot of potential to change and find a new way of being with less full of a cup. Maybe I have like a little more space. And then as we keep working, I have more space for things to not go right or to experience sensation without like losing it.
So when you say simmering, you want simmering when something's
We're like settle it down a little bit.
when something's simmering, there's still space in the pot.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Before it boils over.
Yes. So we're trying, like, we don't necessarily walk on eggshells trying to not let that happen, but we get to explore kind of that roller coaster of emotion a bit more in a supportive way. And so now when I go to a different environment, it's like, oh, I've been here. I've been to frustration. Okay, I got it. And then it's like, okay, I'm all right. And you work through it. And so we're building new connections within the nervous system, within the brain, and developing kind of a new way, a new sort of just new baseline of, gosh, what can I take in?
When you see one of your clients finally get that in some aspect of their lives.
Yes.
I had the immediate thought of how do you reward the client for getting that, but which brings up the questions, do you reward your clients or what's the relationship with reward, I guess?
Yes. So that's the really cool thing. We don't have like a prize box or anything like that. Frankly, we don't need one, because what we find is that like internal state, the child's like, whoa, I just did that, and we're like, whoa, that just happened, kind of thing. But I think it's more about like that internal feeling of like, I got this. Like, whoa, I did that. And it's less of the external kind of reinforcers. So DIR floor time's pretty much like the exact opposite of maybe ABA or applied behavior analysis type of programming, where a child might perform a behavior and gain that reward. I'm trained. I do the thing, I get the reward. I do the thing, I get the reward. But in our model of practice, the child like does the thing, and the reward is like that internal, like, oh yeah, I did that. Let's see if I can do it this way now. Let's see if I can do it that way now. So it's really, really activating just the inner drive of the child to want to pursue certain things or accomplish a task. It's like that sort of dopamine hit, I guess, like after you accomplish something on your list, you're like, aha, I'm done with that. And then you're like, okay, I feel accomplished. And that's kind of that internal feeling that children get to. And of course, we're here to celebrate all victories, but also be with kids when something doesn't work out.
Which brings up, what do you do when you like I remember in therapy sometimes I would just get so frustrated about not being able to do it. What do you do when a child is experiencing frustration or anger at themselves?
I mean, that's a really good question. So because we're so close to the children and we're really in the play with them, we feel the same thing too. You can see the child getting frustrated, and maybe they don't know that that thing that they're feeling is called frustration, but we can notice, or maybe we're feeling that for them, and helping them to name that is really important. So like, I'm thinking of an example when I had a child trying to get from the edge of the ball pit onto a swing that was nearby, and we tried, and it wasn't working. And just naming, like, and using like big affect, like, oh, this is so frustrating, it's just not working, and doing all of this because that's what they're feeling. But then it's like, something's not working, what is it? How can we fix it? I feel like we're too far away, and maybe helping to scaffold the problem solving of, oh, it's too far away. Maybe if and you sort of pause a little bit, that gives the child an opportunity to think of the solution to the problem without it being such a huge task for them. Like, oh, let's use that block. I could go from here to the block and then there, or we can move the ball pit closer to it. There's a lot of different solutions, but just naming, like, it's not working. This is frustrating for me. That's really helpful, because then the child sort of looks at you like you're ridiculous, first of all, but secondly, like, let's figure this out. And so we're just in it together.
So you help them express the emotion rather than just having it inside them eating out that confidence.
Yes. And I think too, for kids, just knowing they're not alone in that. Everybody feels frustrated. Sometimes it's not just them, or, yeah, I am mad that that person just took my toy, but we could use this one instead. We can figure out a solution to the problem. So frustration happens when there's a problem or something's not going as planned. So being able to be flexible in our thinking and think of a new idea, develop a new plan of how can we accomplish this, and knowing there's various possibilities to that is really important stage of learning. But also, we still do that as adults too.
I mean, I as you say that, I think of I took a few improv classes, and one of the distinctions is yes and, like whatever co-creator gives you go yes and it.
Sort of scaffolding it for you, and you're like, okay, here we go. And I'll fill in the blank.
When you say scaffolding, what do you mean?
Scaffolding would be like, we're just sort of building the structure, building the bridge to get closer to the solution. And so, like in the example I gave, trying to get from a ball pit to the swing, there's multiple different strategies we could have used. None of them are really wrong. I mean, we could try them and maybe they don't work, but we still learned within that, and maybe we develop a new plan, but we're just getting closer to the solution. And so sometimes kids need more of that, and as they progress, it's like, maybe you leave it more open-ended, like, it's like we need something to get closer. And then they have to look around the gym and wonder, like, what could we use? Or they feel like they're helping you get to it, because I, of course, am a mess because I'm so frustrated right now. And they're like, oh my goodness, she's going to lose it if we don't solve the problem. And so it's just really a lot of fun together. But scaffolding, just keeping it the just right challenge. And so it's not too hard, not too easy, but so we get growth, an expansion of play and ideas within it.
Say a bit more about the just right. What's the just right challenge? Like, it's such a great concept.
Yeah. So everybody's just right challenge is a little bit different, and that's, our job as the therapist to be artfully vigilant, to wonder, like, is this like so easy for them, or is it way too hard, I'm going to lose them, or is it right in the middle where it's like a little challenging but possible? When things get too easy or too redundant, we sort of get bored. It's like, it's just the same thing. I'm kind of tired of that. Like, I could do this all day, but I've been doing it a while and I'm just not motivated. That intrinsic motivation for it isn't quite there. But if the task is too hard, then it's like, yeah, it's not working. And now we maybe see kids, even adults, frankly, the challenge gets too hard and it's like, okay, now I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to act uninterested. I'm going to pretend like it doesn't matter. Or I might have this big emotional outburst or something because it's just too hard. But in the middle there, we have that just right challenge where it's like, okay, I'm close to this. I'm not quite getting it yet, but I'm close enough that I can get it. And a just right challenge can be a thinking kind of thing. It can be like a motor based thing. So the just right challenge physically, but it could also be the just right challenge emotionally or cognitively, any of those components.
I hope that was a just right cough.
I mean, that's up to you. Seems just right.
You said if you could have a conversation with a person who is now deceased, you would choose Jean. How do you say her name?
Jean Ayres. Jean Ayres. Yes, she's her brain was incredible. She was an occupational therapist, sort of forging the path in the sensory integrative realm. And back in the I think it was actually the 60s, 70s, she started realizing like, some of these kids just aren't learning the same and they're not behaving the same as the others, and kind of wondering about that. These weren't children that had some sort of associated diagnosis from a physician or anything like that. There were just it was just different than typical. And so she started wondering more about these kids. And then she was very aware of, the nervous system, neurology, study of the brain and things. And so back in, the 70s to 80s, she predicted things about sensory processing and how the brain may not be functioning, or connections may not be, being made within it. She predicted all of that, and sensory took a while to, for people to really understand. But it wasn't until like 2015 or so when functional MRIs were able to actually like prove that what she hypothesized was accurate. So here she is, like long ways before that, predicting these things, but noticing when she created these multisensory opportunities for kids to, experience sensation in different ways depending on their need and things, and keeping it fun and keeping it interesting for them, that they improved. And so she was just well ahead of her time. She passed away in 1988, I believe. I might be off a year on that, but then she had been working so hard on this standardized assessment to evaluate sensory integration in children, and she passed away like before the final version came out. So that's kind of obviously a bummer that she didn't get to see that work, or currently just know how many therapists are truly utilizing what she founded impact the lives of so many children at this point.
Wow, she sounds amazing.
I mean, I believe she probably was, but that's why I'd love to have like a conversation just to see who is she, how how playful was she, what what else did she think about or wonder about children.
As someone who, like, I have a slight hearing loss and I wear glasses, but sensory processing and sensory integration has been somewhat of a given in my life, and I think for many people it's just part of what life is. That stuff just works.
Mm-hmm. We sort of figure it out with what we have, right?
Yeah, but how would you describe what it's like for a kid when sensory processing is off or sensory integration is off? I'm sorry, that's a big and sloppy.
No, I think I got it. I feel like the kids are largely misunderstood because kids with sensory processing challenges generally, I mean, they look, quote, typical, whatever typical looks like. We can look like there's not something happening underneath the surface. But underneath the surface, the world might not make sense to us because maybe I'm overly sensitive or responsive to the feeling of my body or my head moving through space. And so because of that, maybe I'm hesitant to play on the swings, or maybe going down slides is scary for me. Maybe I don't like the way the wind feels on my face or how things feel on my hands. Well, if I'm sensitive to how things feel on my hands, maybe I don't like to explore touch very, very much. So therefore, maybe I crawled differently. So my hands didn't have to touch the ground. Maybe I'm kind of a picky eater because if it doesn't feel good out here, it's probably not going to go in my mouth. There's just a lot of different things. And there's also different subtypes of sensory processing. So the ones I listed just now, those are called over responsiveness. But there's also 4 other subtypes of sensory processing challenge that goes along with that. And so children they're giving their best. But what happens is we see the outcome of something not working in behavior. Maybe I'm avoiding things. Maybe I'm withdrawing from things. Maybe I'm having explosive outbursts. Maybe learning is hard for me. Maybe handwriting's hard, coordination, catching a ball, climbing. Maybe I'm awkward and clumsy. All of these things can happen because of sensory processing challenges. And so it really does take a therapist trained in sensory to kind of understand the impact that sensation has and be able to share that and educate parents and teachers and help the child work on their own body through these fun and joyful experiences. And so playing on the playground is no longer scary. So I don't just stay on the blacktop on the playground because now I'm not afraid to go join the social group because I'm capable of doing that. So sensory processing is just such a big umbrella, and it really impacts all areas of function, but we see the challenge in behavior, emotion, coordination, attention, and learning kind of components.
Thanks for answering an extremely
I hope I answered your whole question.
Thank you for answering it really well.
Yes, you're welcome.
Another really broad question. In general, what approach would you suggest parents take if the child is exhibiting a behavior they don't understand?
So the main thing that we want to do first is watch what is this? What's happening right now? We want to wait. Is, if we intervene too soon, then we kind of fail to allow the child a chance to actually figure it out, to kind of work through it. But then we have to wonder about it too. Like, why does it always happen at this time of day? Or, what outcome is the child, getting? Like, so thinking of a child who's struggling with learning at school, it might be, if math is really hard, okay, math class comes, I do some big behavior or something. Now, I had been struggling. I was feeling like, gosh, I'm not good at this. Everybody else is smart. I'm not smart. I can't get it. I'm trying my best. It's not working. And so I do a big behavior. Now I get a break from this space that was hard, from this activity that was hard. I get to go to the principal's office, and I feel safer in the principal's office than I did like struggling on math in the class. And so wondering, like, is this always happening at a certain time in the day? Is there a certain, person or people around? Are there certain environmental factors that are always happening? What kind of demands are being placed on the child in that moment? And what's the task? So wondering about all those things, we might not come to, the correct answer or anything, but we can gain a lot of information from watch, wait, and wonder. Following that, as far as, insight into the parents, if a parent does have a concern about their child, I mean, just doing an initial assessment based in sensory will give so much information about how the child is functioning in each of the systems and how that may be impacting daily performance and participation. But it's really essential that parents, look, or maybe ask, a therapist, what is your qualification in this? What kind of education do you have? Because not everybody knows a lot about sensory.
When a parent is asking a therapist for an initial assessment, is that the wording they would use?
Yes. So at MoveU, we actually offer free 20-minute consultation. So even if a parent's not sure if, like, is this appropriate? Is this the right place? Is this the right fit? Anything like that. We offer that free 20-minute consult just to be able to really answer questions that parents have, to have the family feel and experience the space, and then also determine, does this warrant an initial assessment? Of course, if somebody didn't want to do the consult and they know for sure that an initial evaluation or assessment is what they want to do, they would just be able to call and schedule or ask for an assessment.
If someone's listening in New York City, how would they go about finding a therapist to do this kind of assessment?
So one thing that I can provide you with, if you want following this, is a couple lists or directories of certified therapists in sensory. There's a couple different models of treatment that a therapist can be trained in. I happen to be trained in both of those, and so I would trust anybody with that certification in either of those types. But otherwise, if a family didn't access that link, it would be okay just to ask, what is your background? Do you have a certification in this? Because it's really essential that you get the right fit for your concern, and not just in general an OT assessment or a PT assessment or a speech assessment. You want to make sure that your provider is trained in what your concern is for your child.
Speaking of websites, made me think the MoveU.com way.
It's the MoveU.com.
Yeah. we'll put it up there.
Thank you for that.
So we've been talking appropriately enough a lot about about children and working with children but you mentioned that often it's more challenging to work with teenagers and adults than kids. What why do you think you find that to be the case?
Right. Well, that might not actually be accurate for all therapists, but for this therapist who works largely with infants through grade school to middle school, when I when I have a teenager join me or even an adult, it's really important just to still meet that individual where they're at. And so I might think the ball pit is actually really fun at my age, but a 16, 17-year-old might be like, yeah, I'm not going in there. I'm too cool for that. And obviously as a teenager, it's not really, a typical thing that maybe a teenager would do or an adult would do. Now, I will say there is a critical developmental period, where younger children can make progress so fast, so rapidly, because their brains are just sponges. They can build those connections and they can progress really rapidly. Of course, into teenagers and adulthood, we still have potential for change. We're just not quite, we're not as spongy, soaking everything in as, the younger children are. If I was seeing an adult or a teenager, I would be sure to tailor the intervention just appropriately to what are their strengths and interests. So recently I did treat an adult, and with that, instead of coming into like the MoveU space, we did a telehealth visit, but then when she joined me, we actually went for a walk. First of all, the walk was in nature. That was something she enjoyed, being outside, being active. Those were things she enjoyed. And so I felt like that would make her more at ease and less anxious about being in the space, or am I too old for this, or, any of those things. But then a lot of education with her, because she was knowledgeable and she could speak to her feelings or what are the things that are hard for her. I could give her a lot of nuggets of great sensory lifestyle things that she could incorporate into her daily routine to sort of help her navigate and find that joy in life without feeling so defeated or like she needs to withdraw or avoid just so frequently.
We could talk for another hour. This is
Yeah, it's gone really fast.
This is fascinating. Last question. For now, in my work, I talk about the power of doing I imperfect best, and what it means to me is I go for the best I envision for my life and to contribute. And then when imperfections come up, I try to learn from them and move back forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Kristin?
Oh goodness, I'm just evolving every day. Who knows like what will occur tomorrow. We all face like hard things. We all face unexpected things, but truly each of those are learning experiences and ways to stretch our brain. And then as we take things like that head on, we're just stronger. We're more resilient each time. And so we kind of learn as we go just to handle those hard things and those unfortunate, unexpected things just a bit better.
That definition is great. Thank you so much for your time and for the wonderful work you do and
You're welcome.
MoveU.
Thank you
And
for having me,
please,
Jason.
you're welcome. And please, this is important. Just stay on for a sec, okay? It's
Yes, I can do
important
that.
for everything to upload. And for all of you, thanks so much for tuning in and thinking about all Kristin had to say. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave comments if you're inspired. We love all that, and tune in next week. And thanks for being you. You are the best and only one of you in the world. Go forth and be you. Thank you.